So, this is not a speech that I produce lightly, and I speak not in triumph but in sobriety. The House of Commons has now passed the assisted dying bill with a narrow majority, and it's likely to become law. And while I share many of the hesitations voiced by people like Robert Jenrick, I share the compassion at the heart of this story, and I must explain why I would support this bill. No, because this is not a law about the abandonment of care. If anything, it's the recognition that the ultimate expression of care is respect for conscience, even when it contradicts our own. So let me be clear. In principle, I have long opposed assisted dying, and the idea of the state facilitating death, even in the name of mercy, sits uncomfortably with everything I was taught about human dignity and everything I've learnt about the sanctity of life. But we are not voting on a principle of isolation. And as a country, we are voting on practice, on the law as it stands and what it currently does to the vulnerable. And the truth is that the law as it stands punishes kindness. It criminalises spouses, siblings, sons, daughters who accompany a loved one dying, for example, in Switzerland in dignitas. And it leaves families fearing prosecution more than bereavement. And that is something that I have never been prepared to defend. I think it's cruel. I think it's inhumane. That is the inhumanity. Not enough has been said about this particular aspect, and I hope when this bill goes into the Lords, this will be one of the focuses of attention. Much has been said about slippery slopes, but not every descent is a slide into darkness. Some are carefully carved steps down a cliff face to reach someone stranded. And this is not about the legalization of euthanasia. This is not open season on the elderly. This is a tightly guarded path for terminally ill adults with capacity, prognosis of under 6 months, and strict independent oversight, even if that prognosis is occasionally wrong, as Robert Jenrick rather beautifully described in the Daily Mail. The language of annihilation used by critics like Not Dead Yet doesn't correspond to the facts of this bill. The law does not compel death. It permits choice, and a choice with more protections than any law on abortion or end-of-life sedation currently affords in any place around the world. It also ends illegal hypocrisies. People from England and Wales have been flying to Switzerland to do what they cannot do at home. And their actions are met not with sympathy but with suspicion, and their families endure the trauma of investigation, often after a dignified and loving farewell. And this bill brings us into line with jurisdictions like Belgium, the Netherlands, parts of the US and Australia, nations that have not slid into dystopia, but have instead demonstrated that legal safeguards can be upheld. We're not rushing to emulate the most liberal models. We are taking a cautious and incremental step. And I take seriously the concern about pressure, especially the kind that is quiet, imperceptible, as Matthew Patrick warned. But the answer to that is not prohibition, it's vigilance. It's high-quality palliative care, strength and social work involvement, and legal penalties for coercion. And this law includes a 14-year sentence for anyone found to exert such pressure. But I don't think it's a very well phrased law. I've looked at it. Dying people are vulnerable too. The right not to suffer interminably when all medical help has fled is a right worth protecting, even if it's not something that I would endorse personally. I've read Robert Jenrick's moving account of his grandmother, and I honour his love and her resilience, but no law can be crafted on anecdote alone. And his grandmother lived, others do not. Some die in agony, frightened and unable to speak, and others, who wish to die on their own terms, are denied even that last fragment of agency. The bill is not about hurrying death, it's about not prolonging torment. Not every hour at the end of life is a blessing. Some are unendurable burdens, experienced not just by the patient but by their carers, and we shouldn't sentimentalise suffering into virtue. I believe Parliament has passed a bill that is neither perfect nor reckless. It's a difficult grace, and I still oppose assisted dying in principle, but I oppose far more the spectacle of grieving children sitting in police stations, and I oppose the blind cruelty of a law that says you must watch your loved one suffer or face a prison cell. And so, though the ground may feel morally unsteady, I would definitely, had I been an MP, have voted for change, not because I have ceased to value life, but because I know that for some the last act of love is to let go. So I think We need to focus on implementation, on palliative care, and on support. This is not the end of the debate, but it is the beginning of a more honest, more humane approach to death in modern Britain.